Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, listen to me carefully. We are living in times when the enemy is not just working in the shadows, he is working through people, through conversations, through arguments that are designed to pull you away from your mission. And today I have come with a word for you. Stop explaining and arguing yourself to demons in people. There are some battles that are worth fighting, and then there are battles that are meant to distract you. The enemy is not always a roaring lion in the wilderness. Sometimes he comes as a voice, a question, an accusation, or a never-ending debate. If you're not careful, you'll find yourself stuck trying to convince people who don't want to be convinced. Look at Jesus. When the Pharisees came to trap him, did he waste his breath explaining himself? No, he saw their hearts, he answered what was necessary, and when it was time, he remained silent. Some of you need to learn the power of silence. The devil thrives on confusion. He wants you to keep arguing, keep defending yourself, keep getting frustrated. But hear me today. You do not have to prove yourself to anyone. If they refuse to see the truth, shake the dust off your feet and move on. Too many of God's children are wasting their energy trying to explain their anointing to people who are spiritually blind. You will never convince someone who has already decided to reject the truth. So why are you still trying? Protect your peace. Protect your purpose. Stand firm in your faith. And when the enemy comes disguised as a debate, disguised as a demand for explanations, remember this. You don't have to argue with demons. You cast them out. You walk away. You keep moving forward. Let those who have ears to hear, hear. Amen. Not everyone who questions you is looking for the truth. Some people challenge you not to learn, but to provoke, to distract, and to drain your spirit. This is why spiritual discernment is not just helpful, it is crucial. You must learn to recognize when a conversation is leading to life. There are those who will engage with you not because they are seeking understanding, but because they are being used by something far greater than what appears on the surface. They come with words that sound intellectual, questions that seem thoughtful, and arguments that appear logical, but deep down their hearts are already hardened. They are not searching for truth, they are searching for an opportunity to trap you, to frustrate you, and to shift your focus away from your purpose. This is why Jesus warned his followers, "Do not cast your pearls before swine." What does that mean? It means that wisdom, truth, and revelation are precious. They are not meant to be wasted on those who have already chosen to reject them. You can pour out everything you have, but if someone has already decided in their heart to resist, your words will fall on deaf ears. Some people are not arguing with you because they don't understand. They are arguing with you because they don't want to understand. And if you do not discern this early, you will spend hours, days, even years locked in a battle that God never called you to fight. Look at how Jesus handled his critics. When he stood before Pilate, he did not defend himself. When the Pharisees tried to trap him with questions, he responded with wisdom, but never engaged in endless debate. He discerned their hearts and knew when to speak and when to walk away. And yet too many of us today feel the need to explain ourselves over and over, to prove our faith, to justify our calling, and to convince people who have no intention of listening. But let me tell you this, when you truly walk in the Spirit, You don't have to explain yourself to everybody. When God has called you, anointed you, and sent you, your fruit will speak louder than your words. Discernment is knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. It is knowing when to stand and when to walk away. It is knowing who is asking out of sincerity and who is asking just to trap you. If you do not develop this discernment, you will find yourself constantly drained, constantly explaining, constantly defending, and all the while the enemy is distracting you from your true purpose. The Bible tells us that the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And one of the things he steals is your time. He will keep you entangled in conversations that go nowhere, in arguments that lead to frustration, in explanations that never satisfy the people demanding them. But hear me today, you do not owe an explanation to demons. You owe your obedience to God. Stop trying to convince those who are determined to resist. Stop casting your pearls before those who trample them underfoot. Stop engaging with people who are not speaking from themselves, but from something influencing them. Pray for them. Love them. But do not let them pull you into endless battles that weaken your spirit. Your calling is too important. Your assignment is too great. And your time is too precious to waste on those who have no intention of hearing the truth. Move forward, stand firm, and let the Spirit of God lead you in all wisdom. When Jesus encountered demons, he never debated with them. He never explained himself, never tried to justify his authority, and never entertained their presence longer than necessary. He simply commanded them, and they had to obey. When the demons cried out, recognizing who he was, he rebuked them and told them to be silent. Why? Because he knew that engaging with them was a waste of time. He understood that demons do not respond to reasoning. They respond to authority. Yet, too many of us today spend our energy arguing with people who are not speaking from their own wisdom, but are being influenced by something far greater than what we see on the surface. When the Pharisees and religious leaders confronted Jesus, he discerned their motives. Some came with genuine questions, and to them he gave answers. But others came only to test him, to twist his words, and to find fault with him. And to them he responded with wisdom, parables, or silence. He never wasted time trying to convince those who had already made up their minds to reject him. Look at how he stood before Pilate. Pilate asked him questions, but Jesus remained mostly silent. Why? Because he did not need to defend himself. The truth does not need to argue its case to those who are blind to it. And yet, how often do we find ourselves trapped in endless discussions, trying to prove ourselves to people who have no intention of listening? How often do we allow ourselves to be pulled into debates that lead nowhere? The enemy knows that if he can keep you explaining yourself, justifying your faith, and arguing with those who refuse to understand, he can keep you distracted from your mission. He does not need to destroy you if he can simply delay you. He does not need to attack you if he can keep you entangled in useless debates. Jesus understood this, and that is why he never entertained the enemy's tactics. When Satan tempted him in the wilderness, Jesus did not engage in a long discussion. He responded with the word and shut it down. When the demons spoke, he commanded them to be silent. When people came with hardened hearts, he answered them with wisdom, then walked away. And if Jesus, the Son of God, did not waste his time arguing with demons, then why should you? There are moments when you must stand firm in truth. But there are also moments when the greatest display of wisdom is silence. Not because you have nothing to say, but because saying it would change nothing. Some people are not asking to learn, they are asking to attack. Some are not looking for answers, they are looking for arguments. And when you recognize this, you will understand that your responsibility is not to argue with those who refuse to see, but to keep moving forward in the power and authority that God has given you. So the next time you find yourself in a situation where someone demands you explain yourself, defend yourself, or justify yourself, ask yourself this: did Jesus waste his time doing that? If the answer is no, then neither should you. Speak truth, walk in authority, and do not give demons, whether spiritual or working through people, the satisfaction of your attention. Keep your focus on God's purpose and let the truth speak for itself. The enemy's greatest weapon is not always direct attack. It is confusion. He does not always come as an obvious adversary. Sometimes he comes as a whisper, a question, a debate that keeps you entangled in endless explanations. His goal is not just to oppose you, but to drain you, distract you, and delay you from walking fully in your purpose. If he can keep you second-guessing yourself, if he can keep you caught up in arguments that lead nowhere, he doesn't need to destroy you. He only needs to keep you busy. Look at how Satan first deceived Eve in the garden. He did not come with force. He came with a question. Did God really say that? That question was not asked to seek truth, but to create doubt, to introduce confusion, to make her reconsider what she already knew. And that is exactly how the enemy works today. He places people in your path who do not ask questions for the sake of learning, but for the sake of stirring confusion. They challenge your faith, not to grow in understanding, but to make you question what you already know to be true. And the moment you engage, the moment you start explaining and defending yourself beyond what is necessary, you have already stepped into the trap. Jesus warned against this. He told us that the enemy is a liar and the father of lies. Lies create confusion. Lies twist the truth just enough to make you unsure. Lies keep you talking, keep you explaining, keep you arguing, until you are so wrapped up in defending what is true that you have lost focus on living out that truth. This is why Jesus never wasted time in arguments. He spoke what was necessary and then he moved forward. When people tried to trap him with theological debates, he answered with wisdom and shut down the conversation. When demons tried to speak, he silenced them. He never allowed confusion to take root because he knew its power. Once you start explaining yourself to the wrong people, you step into a battle you were never meant to fight. The enemy wants you tangled in unnecessary conversations. He wants you justifying yourself to people who have already decided to reject you. He wants you exhausting yourself, trying to convince those who are not interested in truth, but in opposition. And if he can keep you doing that, he can keep you from fulfilling your purpose. But hear me today, you do not owe an explanation to confusion. You do not have to answer every question. You do not have to justify yourself to those who refuse to understand. Speak truth, stand firm, and move forward. Do not let the enemy keep you caught up in endless debates that serve no purpose but to drain your strength. The battle is not fought with words, it is fought with faith, with wisdom, and with the authority that comes from knowing who you are in Christ. There comes a time when you must accept that some people are not rejecting you, they are rejecting the truth. No matter how clearly you explain, no matter how much evidence you provide, no matter how passionately you speak, their hearts are already hardened. They have made up their minds, and nothing you say will change that. It is not a lack of understanding that keeps them from receiving the truth. It is a refusal to accept it. Jesus encountered this over and over. The religious leaders of his day saw his miracles, heard his wisdom, and witnessed his authority, yet they still rejected him. They were not ignorant, they were unwilling. When he healed on the Sabbath, they were not amazed by the miracle. They were furious that he did not follow their rules. When he cast out demons, they did not rejoice that a man was set free. They accused him of working with the devil. No matter what he did, they had already decided in their hearts that they would not believe. And Jesus, knowing this, did not waste time trying to convince them. He spoke the truth and moved on. Some of you are exhausting yourselves trying to explain your faith, your calling, and your purpose to people who have no intention of understanding. You keep trying to prove yourself to those who have already made up their minds about you. But hear me today. You do not have to convince those who have chosen to be blind. If someone has already decided to reject the truth, you could present them with all the evidence in the world, and they will still find a reason to argue. Their issue is not with you, it is with the truth itself. This is why Jesus warned his disciples not to waste time where they were not welcome. He told them, if anyone will not receive you or listen to your words, shake the dust off your feet as you leave that house or town. Why? Because time is precious. Energy is precious. You are called to plant seeds, not to force them to grow. You are called to preach the truth, not to make people accept it. Some people are like Pharaoh. No matter how many signs and wonders they see, their hearts remain hardened. And if you keep explaining yourself to them, you will find yourself trapped in a cycle of frustration. It is time to let go. It is time to stop chasing approval from those who will never give it. It is time to stop casting your pearls before swine, hoping they will see their value. Speak the truth. Stand firm. Pray for those who resist, but do not waste another moment arguing with those who have already chosen their side. Keep moving forward. Let God deal with their hearts while you stay focused on your calling. Your peace and energy are some of the most valuable things you have, and the enemy knows it. That is why he will use people, situations, and endless debates to drain you. If he can't stop you, he will exhaust you. If he can't destroy you, he will distract you. And one of the easiest ways he does this is by keeping you caught up in unnecessary arguments, explanations, and battles that God never called you to fight. Look at Jesus. He had a mission, a purpose, and a limited time to fulfill it. He did not waste his energy on fruitless conversations. When people came to him with genuine hearts seeking truth, he gave them his time. But when people came only to test him, to provoke him, or to challenge his authority, he did not allow them to drain him. He spoke wisdom, and when necessary, he remained silent. He understood that engaging in every battle was not a sign of strength. It was a distraction from his mission. Some of you are tired, not because of the work God has called you to do, but because you are constantly explaining yourself to people who have no intention of understanding. You are pouring out energy, defending yourself to those who only seek to discredit you. You are allowing toxic conversations to rob you of the peace God has given you. But let me remind you, your peace is worth protecting. Your energy is worth guarding. Your purpose is too important to waste on people who are committed to misunderstanding you. The Bible tells us, "Do not answer a fool according to his folly, or you yourself will be just like him." Some arguments are not meant to be won, they are meant to be avoided. Some conversations do not deserve your voice, they deserve your silence. When you engage with the wrong people, you are not just using words, you are spending energy, time, and focus. And if you are not careful, you will find yourself drained, discouraged, and distracted from what truly matters. Jesus told his disciples, "My peace I give to you." That peace is not meant to be sacrificed every time someone questions you, challenges you, or refuses to understand you. It is not your job to fix people. It is not your job to make them see the truth. Your job is to walk in obedience, speak truth when led by the Spirit, and move forward without allowing the enemy to steal your peace. So today I urge you, guard your peace, guard your energy. Stop explaining yourself to those who refuse to hear. Stop arguing with people who only seek to drain you. Walk in wisdom, stand firm in truth, and protect the calling God has placed on your life. Some battles are not yours to fight, and some conversations are not worth having. Choose wisely where you spend your energy, because your purpose is far too great to waste on distractions. The truth does not need constant defense. It simply needs to be stood upon. When you know who you are in God, when you know what He has called you to do, when you know the truth He has revealed to you, then you do not have to argue, explain, or justify yourself to those who refuse to believe. Stand firm and move forward. One of the enemy's greatest tactics is to keep you stuck in explaining, stuck in defending, stuck in trying to prove yourself to people who have already made up their minds. But when you waste time trying to convince those who refuse to see, you are delaying what God has for you. Jesus never did this. He spoke the truth boldly, and then He moved on. He did not chase after people who rejected Him. He did not beg the Pharisees to understand Him. He did not engage in endless debates with those who twisted His words. He simply fulfilled His mission and kept walking. Some of you are tired because you are carrying the burden of trying to make people accept the truth. But let me remind you, it is not your job to make people believe. It is your job to stand firm and keep moving forward. Not everyone will agree with you. Not everyone will accept what God has called you to do. Not everyone will understand your journey, and that is okay. Jesus told His disciples that the world would hate them because it hated Him first. If you are standing for truth, opposition will come, but you do not have to stop and address every critic along the way.